A tiny trembling hand tugs on the leather cut of a motorcycle club president. The giant, known as Reaper, leans his head down, creating a private, safe confessional. The 9-year-old girl moves close and whispers the phrase that will change her life forever. My stepdad said he'd kill me if I told. Reaper doesn't move. The mission was set. I'm known as Joe, and I'll be the narrator of this story. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We are in the forgotten heart of America, in a small, rust-eaten town in Ohio, where the skeletons of steel mills scratch at a gray sky. This is where we find Maya. She is 9 years old, but her eyes are ancient. She's an observer, a quiet soul forced to mature far too quickly, carrying a weight that would buckle a grown man. Her only refuge is a worn-out sketchbook, its pages filled with brightly colored heroes and easily identifiable monsters. In her drawings, the good guys always win. Desperate fantasy she clings to in a world where the lines are blurred and the monsters are masters of disguise. Her world is one of low intensity, silent terror. Her mother, Sarah, is a ghost of a woman, exhausted by double shifts at the local Greasy Spoon. Hop's Diner. She recently married Rick, a man who, to the outside world, is the definition of a second chance. Before we dive deeper into Maya's story, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your city and country in the comments right now. This man, Rick, this charismatic, hard-working savior, is a lie. Behind the closed door of their small, peeling rental house, he is a volatile tyrant, a master of control. Rick's power is absolute. He has isolated Sarah from her friends, managing her money, her time, and her reality. But his true resentment, his focused cruelty, is reserved for Maya. She is the living reminder that Sarah had a life before him. The abuse is not always overt. It is insidious. It is the grip on her arm that lasts just a second too long, leaving a constellation of faint bruises. It is the accidental shove against the hallway wall. It is the whisper, "Your mom only loves me," that chips away at her 9-year-old soul. Maya, in her tragic innocence, has become her mother's protector. She understands, in a way no child should, that her mother is fragile. She sees the fleeting moments of happiness Rick provides Sarah, a bouquet of cheap flowers, a rare laugh. Maya believes that if she just stays quiet, if she absorbs the pain without a sound, she can preserve this fragile peace for her mother. She hides her bruises under long sleeves. She never cries where anyone can see. She has accepted her role as the silent sacrifice, the price for her mother's approximation of happiness. The threat that hangs over her is not an exaggeration. It is a promise. Rick, in a moment of quiet rage, once cornered her in the kitchen and whispered, "I will kill you if you ever tell anyone." For a 9-year-old, this is not hyperbole. It is a death sentence. It is the truth that locks her tiny jaw, that silences her screams, that turns her into a living ghost in her own home. She is trapped, not just by him, but by her love for her mother. Hop's Diner becomes her purgatory. After school, she takes the bus to the diner and slides into the back booth, the one with the cracked red vinyl that smells of stale coffee and bleach. She does her homework under the buzzing neon light, waiting for Sarah's endless shift to end. She is a permanent fixture, a small, still point in the diner's chaotic world. The waitresses give her sympathetic looks and free cherry cokes, but they say nothing. They know, but they don't know. Or perhaps they choose not to. The diner is a microcosm of the entire town. It is a place of willful blindness. The locals see Rick walk in, all smiles and charisma, slapping the sheriff on the back as he picks up his girl. They see him grip Maya's shoulder, a gesture that looks like affection but is a vice of control. They see Maya flinch, see her shrink into herself. But in this part of Ohio, people mind their own business. They have their own lost jobs and broken homes to worry about. Family drama is kept behind closed doors. Maya is completely, tragically visible, yet utterly invisible. She is surrounded by people, yet profoundly alone. The systems designed to protect children like her are distant, abstract concepts. The only system she knows is the one. In her home, a dictatorship ruled by Rick's volatile moods. Her mother is a prisoner, and Maya is the prisoner's warden, silenced by a terrible, adult secret. She is a good girl in a bad situation, her purity a flickering candle in a suffocating dark. Her sketchbook is her only only act of defiance. The paper absorbs her tears and her terror. She draws worlds where monsters are obvious, with horns and claws and glowing red eyes. She draws heroes who are massive and strong, who smash the monsters and save the children. She draws what she cannot say, mapping out her own private justice system, because the real one has completely and totally failed her. She has no one. She is on her own. This is the state of her world, a state of suspended animation, of waiting for the next blow, the next quiet threat. She is a child holding her breath, praying for a hero that she knows only exists on paper. She has no idea that her hero is about to walk through the door, and that he will look nothing like the ones in her drawings. He will, in fact, look just like the monsters. It is a Friday afternoon. The Ohio sky is a heavy, bruised purple, promising a violent summer thunderstorm. The air inside Hop's diner is thick, sticky with humidity, and the smell of old grease. Maya is in her usual booth, her sketchbook open, but her pencil is still. She's watching the door, waiting for Rick. The atmosphere is tense, the calm before the storm. Then, the bell above the diner door jingle, a sharp, heavy sound that cuts through the low chatter. Every person in the diner freezes. In walks not one man, but 15. They fill the doorway, blotting out the dying light. They are giants, clad in heavy, worn leather. Rainwater drips from their beards and the patches on their cuts or vests. They are the Iron Shields Veterans Motorcycle Club. The patches on their backs are not just club affiliations, they are battle scars. Afghanistan veteran, Semper Fi, Iraq campaign. These are not weekend warriors playing dress up. These are men who walk through the crucible and carry its fire with them. The diner holds its collective breath. The locals see only the stereotype: outlaw, danger, violence. The waitress nervously grips her coffee pot. A mother at a nearby table pulls her own child a little closer. This is the judgment these men face every single day. They are feared, ostracized, and misunderstood by the very society they once swore an oath to protect. They are seen as monsters, and they have long since stopped caring what the world thinks of them. Their leader, the club president, walks last. His road name is Reaper. He's a mountain of a man, his face a roadmap of a hard life, with a scar running from his temple to his jaw. But his eyes are what stop you. They are cold, intelligent, and tired. They have witnessed the absolute worst of humanity in the deserts of Kandahar. He doesn't look for trouble, but he radiates an aura that promises he will definitively end it. He exudes an authority that no uniform or badge could ever grant. Reaper ignores the stares. He moves with a deliberate, disciplined economy, a soldier's grace. He and his men take over the counter, their massive frames dwarfing the spinning vinyl stools. Reaper orders a black coffee. Sarah, Maya's mother, trembles as she pours it, her hand shaking so badly she spills some on the counter. Reaper just nods, his gaze missing nothing. He sees her fear, sees the exhaustion in her eyes, and files it away. He is a man who understands power, and he recognizes a victim when he sees one. The diner door slams open again, and this time, it is Rick. He is angry, soaked from the rain, and irritated that he has to be here. He doesn't see the bikers at first. His focus is a laser beam of resentment aimed directly at Maya. Let's go. Now, his voice cuts through the diner, sharp and ugly, laced with impatience. He strides over to the booth, his presence sucking the air out of the room. He grabs Maya's arm. He grabs it too hard, his fingers digging into her bicep, a flash of white-hot pain. Maya lets out a tiny, involuntary whimper. It is a sound barely louder than the sizzling grill, a choked gasp of pain she tried to swallow. But in the sudden, heavy silence of the diner, it echoes like a cannon shot. It's the sound of a small animal caught in a steel trap. Reaper hears it. That specific sound. He has heard it before. In bombed-out villages, in the desperate cries of civilians caught in the crossfire. It is the sound of the truly helpless. He doesn't snap his head. He turns slowly on his stool. His eyes, cold as glacial ice, lock onto Maya. He doesn't look at Rick. He doesn't acknowledge the bully. He looks at the child. And for the first time in her life, Maya feels well and truly seen. Rick notices the biker looking. His petty, insecure ego flares. He sees the leather, the patches, and smells a challenge. challenge. What are you staring at, Grandpa? He sneers, trying to assert his dominance to puff up his chest for the local audience. He's the alpha in his small, sad world, and he won't be stared down by this relic. He is performing, proving his power. I'm gonna use the John, Rick snarled, shoving Maya roughly back in the booth. You be ready when I get back. You hear me? He stalks off toward the men's room at the back of the diner, confident that he has won the exchange, that he has put the old biker in his place. He has just made the single greatest mistake of his life. Maya is left trembling, the imprint of his fingers already burning on her arm. She looks around. The cook is suddenly fascinated by his grill. The other patrons are staring intently into their coffee cups. Sarah, her own mother, is busy wiping down the counter, her back to her daughter. Everyone is looking away. They are all complicit in their silence, afraid of Rick, afraid of the bikers. They offer her nothing, but one person is not looking away. Reaper is still watching her. His gaze is not one offity. It is one of recognition. He sees a fellow soldier, a prisoner of war in her own home. He gives her the slightest, almost imperceptible nod. It's not a promise of rescue. It's a simple acknowledgement. I see you. In that 1 second, something snaps inside Maya. The years of practiced silence, the terror, the hopeless belief that she had to endure this alone, it all shatters. This man, this terrifying scarred giant, did not look away. He saw. A desperate 9-year-old's gamble surfaces. She makes a choice that will alter the course of her entire life. She slides out of the booth. Her legs feel like water, shaking so hard she can barely stand. She crosses the checkered linoleum floor, one tiny, agonizing step at a time. The entire club, the other 14 bikers, watch her approach their president. They say nothing. They just watch. She's a tiny mouse walking into a den of lions. She stops directly behind Reaper. She is so small. His leather-clad back is a monolithic wall. She's trembling from head to toe. She can't speak. Instead, she lifts a tiny, shaking hand and tugs, ever so gently, on the bottom of his cut. The smallest possible plea for help. Reaper leans down. He doesn't turn around. He simply cocks his head, bringing his ear down to her level, shielding her small face from the view of the rest of the diner. He creates a private, safe confessional. He waits. Maya rises on her tiptoes. She presses her mouth close to his ear, breathing the words that seal Rick's fate. The words that are her last desperate flare in the dark. The phrase that will bring the thunder. My stepdad said he'd kill me if I told. Reaper does not move. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't ask, are you sure? He doesn't doubt her for a single second. He has seen this truth 1,000 times in the eyes of the innocent. A cold, lethal calm settles over him. The mission is set. He places his massive tattooed hand gently over her tiny one, covering it completely. He says only one word, a vow forged in the fires of combat. Wait. Rick swaggers out of the restroom, wiping his hands on his jeans. He sees Maya standing next to the biker, her hand covered by the giant's. His face contorts into a mask of pure, possessive rage. This is the ultimate betrayal. I told you to wait in the booth, he hisses. He yanks her away, his grip like a steel trap on her small wrist. He throws a crumpled $10 bill onto the counter in front of Sarah. We're leaving. He doesn't look at Reaper. He drags Maya out into the lashing rain, her feet barely touching the ground. The ride home is a vortex of silent terror. The truck is filled with Rick's menacing quiet. The moment the front door locks behind them, the punishment is immediate and severe. You think you're smart? Talking to that trash? He screams, his voice echoing in the small house. He shoves her hard. You think they can help you? They're gone. Nobody can help you. Nobody will ever believe you. He locks her in her bedroom, the sound of the deadbolt clicking shut like a prison sentence. He then turns his venom on Sarah. He twists the narrative with the skill of a master manipulator. Your daughter was disrespecting me, flirting with those disgusting animals. What kind of mother are you, letting her run wild? He paints himself as the victim, the concerned father figure. Sarah, exhausted, desperate to believe the fragile lie of her happy marriage, buckles. She chooses to believe him. She doesn't check on Maya, but the iron shields are not gone. They check into the American Star Motel, the only one in town, a dilapidated relic with a flickering vacancy sign. Reaper sits in a cheap plastic chair, watching the rain lash the window. Maya's whisper echoes in his head. He'd kill me if I told. It was not a plea. It was a field report, and they They do not leave their own behind. With that one whisper, Maya became one of them. This wasn't the first time the system had been alerted. Months ago, Mrs. Gable, Maya's third-grade teacher, had noticed. She saw the bruises, faint and yellowing, on Maya's arms. She saw the way Maya flinched when she, the teacher, moved too quickly. Mrs. Gable was young, earnest, and believed in the rules. She followed protocol. She made the call to Child Protective Services. She believed with all her heart that she was doing the right thing. The system's response was not a rescue. It was a betrayal. The visit from social services was announced 2 days in advance. A critical, fatal error of bureaucracy. When the caseworker, an overworked man named Mr. Harris, arrived, Rick was ready. He had coached Maya. He was the picture of the concerned father. The house was clean. Sarah was smiling, albeit nervously. Rick explained the bruises away with practiced ease. "She's so clumsy. Fell off the monkey bars at the park, didn't you, honey?" The caseworker, drowning in a sea of similar cases, looked at Maya. "Is everything okay here, Maya?" Rick's hand was on her shoulder. The pressure was slight, a gentle squeeze, but to Maya, it was a boa constrictor. It was the promise of what would come if she spoke. She looked at the floor and nodded. The case was closed. Unfounded. The system had not only failed to save her, it had actively reinforced Rick's power. It proved his point. Nobody will ever believe you. Mrs. Gable, the teacher, saw Maya become even more withdrawn. She knew she had made things worse, but her hands were tied. The file was closed. The bureaucracy had spoken. Then there is the local police, the most compromised gear in this broken machine. Sheriff Thompson. He is not an enforcer of the law. He is a maintainer of the local hierarchy. He's a good old boy. He and Rick are friends. They drink at the same VFW post. Even though Rick never served a day in his life, they share a disdain for outsiders and government overreach. When the initial call from CPS came through, Thompson himself had given Rick a friendly heads up. He didn't see it as obstruction of justice. He saw it as helping a buddy, a good guy who stepped up for a single mom. Avoid trouble from a nosy teacher and bleeding heart social workers. He was protecting the status quo. He was protecting the monster. The final wall of this systemic failure is Sarah, the mother. She is not a villain, but she is a tragic, blinded victim. She is trapped in a cage of financial and emotional codependency. Rick pays the bills. Rick is the man of the house. Admitting that Maya is in danger would mean admitting that she, Sarah, has failed catastrophically. It would mean admitting that her new life is a lie. Her denial is a fortress. She accepts Rick's excuses for the bruises. She tells herself Maya is just too sensitive or looking for attention. She cannot face the terrifying reality that her choice of a husband has put her daughter in mortal danger. She is the last locked door, the final, most heartbreaking failure of the system. Maya is completely, utterly, and terrifyingly alone, but the iron shields operate outside this broken system. They know it cannot be trusted. Reaper dispatches his men. Ghost, the club's sergeant-at-arms, a man who spent a decade in Army intelligence, sets up. He doesn't need a warrant. He needs the truth. They park a nondescript plumbing van, acquired from a friend in the next town, down the street from Rick's house. It is raining heavily, providing perfect cover. Ghost uses a parabolic microphone, a high-gain listening device, and aims it directly at the thin walls of the rental house. They don't have to wait long. The audio they capture is sickening. They record the screaming. They record Rick's voice, no longer charming, but a guttural snarl. They hear the sound of something breaking, a lamp hitting the wall. They hear Maya's choked sobs. While Ghost listens, another member, Preacher, runs Rick's name and plates through databases not available publicly. He finds what Sheriff Thompson missed and what the CPS worker never looked for. 2 prior domestic assault charges in Pennsylvania. Both were dropped when the victim suddenly refused to testify. A pattern, a history, the proof. Then, they capture the kill shot, the definitive, undeniable evidence. Rick, in a final fit of rage, screams the exact words Maya quoted. "I told you I would kill you if you ever told anyone. You think I'm kidding? Try me." It is a direct, credible, and imminent threat. Reaper listens to the recording one time. His face hardens into granite. He pulls out his encrypted phone. He does not call 911. He does not call the local compromised sheriff. He makes one call to the VMC national president. The message is simple. Code red. Ohio, we have a child. He makes a second call to a number he hasn't used since he left the service. A contact deep within the federal justice system. He sends the audio file. He sends sends ghosts background check. His message is a summons. Imminent danger to a minor. Local PD is compromised. We are holding perimeter. Advise ETA. The call is made. The system has failed. The flood is on its way. Saturday morning. The sun climbs over the rusted skeletons of the steel mills, casting long fractured shadows across the working-class neighborhood. It is peaceful. Deceptively so. Inside her room, Maya is huddled in the back of her closet, hidden behind old coats, her sketchbook clutched to her chest. She has cried herself to sleep. In the kitchen, Rick is drinking coffee, smug and confident, the king of his tiny, terrified castle. He believes the storm has passed. The sound begins. It is not a sound at first. It is a vibration, a low-frequency rumble felt in the chest, in the floorboards, in the very foundation of the house. Rick glances at his coffee cup, watching the black liquid tremble. He thinks it's thunder from the departing storm, but the sound doesn't fade. It doesn't recede. It grows. It builds. It becomes a roar. A deep, guttural, mechanical roar that rattles the cheap glass in the windows. It's the sound of 100 synchronized heartbeats forged from American steel and high-octane gasoline. It is the sound of mechanized cavalry. It is the sound of a promise being kept. They pour onto the main street of the small town, a rolling, thundering river of chrome and black leather. Not 15 bikers, not 50, 200. 200 Iron Shields and their allied VMC chapters from Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Michigan. They move in perfect, staggered, military formation, taking the town in a deafening wave. They turn onto Maya's street. The sound is now apocalyptic. It is an overwhelming, terrifying declaration of presence. They stop. In perfect, terrifying unison, 200 V-twin engines go silent. The sudden, absolute quiet that follows is more deafening, more menacing than the noise itself. They dismount, not in a chaotic rabble, but with the disciplined precision of a military unit. They do not speak. They form a perfect, silent perimeter around Rick's small house. They block the street. They block the alley. They stand shoulder to shoulder, a living, breathing wall of leather, muscle, and uncompromising purpose. There is no escape. The neighbors, drawn by the engine thunder, peek through their blinds. The casual judgment from the diner is gone, replaced by raw, primal fear. They lock their doors. They pull their children away from the windows. They see what they were, raised to fear, an outlaw army. They are witnessing the arrival of something ancient and terrible, a reckoning. Rick looks out the kitchen window. His smug confidence shatters. The coffee cup slips from his suddenly numb fingers and smashes on the linoleum floor. His face turns a pale, sickly, greenish white. This is not a force he can charm. This is not a man he can intimidate. This is not a system he can manipulate. This is the end. He does the only thing a coward knows to do. He calls his friend for protection. He fumbles for his phone, his hands shaking, and dials 911. There's a biker gang, hundreds of them. They're threatening me. They're surrounding my house. Send help. Sheriff Thompson arrives in minutes, his single cruiser siren wailing, a pathetic sound against the massive silence. He skids to a stop, his car blocked by the wall of men. He steps out, his hand instinctively resting on his holstered weapon. Reaper, he yells, trying to sound authoritative. You disperse this illegal gathering right now, or I'm calling in the state. His voice is shaking. He is one man. They are an army. Reaper, standing at the head of the formation near the front walk, does not even turn to look at him. He treats the sheriff as what he is. Irrelevant. A gnat, a broken cog in a failed machine. Reaper's entire focus is on the front door of the house. Two black Ford sedans, unmarked, with dark-tinted windows and federal plates, slice through the morning air. They use no sirens. They drive calmly past the cruiser, and the wall of bikers parts just enough to let them through, like the Red Sea parting. They stop directly behind Reaper. Two men and one woman step out. They are wearing sharp, immaculate suits, with the unmistakable bulge of Kevlar vests underneath. They wear earpieces. FBI, Child Crimes Unit, the woman says, flashing a badge not at the sheriff, but at Reaper. The lead agent looks at Reaper. We received your package, he says. It is the only acknowledgement needed. Reaper nods once. The handoff is complete. The federal agents have the high-quality audio file of the death threat. They have Ghost's full report on the out-of-state priors. They have a federal warrant for kidnapping and terroristic threats. Sheriff Thompson looks baffled. His face is a mask of confusion and profound impotence. His good old boy power, his entire sphere of influence has just been rendered completely and totally void. This is justice bypassing the broken parts. If you believe power shouldn't protect predators, smash that like button. Your engagement proves people care more about justice than politics. FBI, we have a warrant. Open the door. The lead agent yells. They do not wait for an answer. They use a tactical battering ram. The cheap front door splinters, flying off its hinges. The agents flood into the house, weapons drawn. Sarah screams, not in terror, but in pure, unadulterated shock. They find Rick, the great tyrant, trying to crawl out the small back window in the laundry room. He gets halfway out, only to find his escape route blocked. The backyard is filled with 50 of the largest bikers, standing silent, their arms crossed, a wall of brutal, patient mercy. He scrambles back inside, only to be met by the raised weapons of the federal agents. They drag him out the front door in handcuffs, barefoot and weeping. The father of the year is exposed for the pathetic creature he is. He sees the neighbors, all watching from their lawns now. He sees his power, his control, his carefully crafted world dissolve. As the agents shove him into the back of their sedan, his desperate, tear-filled eyes meet Reaper's. Rick looks for a flicker of triumph, of anger, of anything. He finds nothing, only the cold, flat, indifferent calm of a job finished. The impersonal gaze of a man who has just taken out the trash. The female FBI agent walks back out of the shattered front door. She is not alone. She is holding Maya's small hand. Maya is pale, still clutching her sketchbook, but her eyes are wide. She looks at the 200 silent warriors who have assembled on her lawn, the monsters from her nightmares, and she realizes in a blinding flash of perfect clarity they were the heroes all along. Maya steps onto the porch, a tiny figure in the shadow of the FBI agent. Her eyes scan the army on her lawn, this impossible gathering of guardians. Reaper breaks formation. He walks past the federal agents, past the disgraced and useless Sheriff Thompson, and stops at the bottom of the steps. He kneels, a mountain lowering itself. He puts himself on her level. He is no longer a giant. He is just a man, here to fulfill a promise. He holds out his massive gloved hand. In his palm is not a weapon, but a piece of thick folded leather. It is a patch, the Iron Shield's VMC logo, an eagle clutching a shield. Your family now, kid, he says, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. We don't leave family behind, ever. It is sacrament, a declaration, an adoption. Maya drops her sketchbook. The pages flutter open, revealing her drawings of colorful caped heroes. She lunges forward and wraps her tiny arms around Reaper's massive leather-clad neck. She buries her face in his cut, inhaling the scent of rain, road leather, and gasoline. It is the safest she has ever felt in her entire life. A low, approving murmur rises from the 200 men. They are her wall. Sarah stumbles out onto the porch, her face a mask of shattered denial. The female FBI agent gently, but firmly, explains the evidence. Ma'am, we have a recording of him threatening to kill your daughter. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. The fortress of her denial crumbles to dust. She collapses onto the porch steps, sobbing, finally understanding the monster she brought into her home and the daughter she almost lost. The neighbors, now bold enough to stand on their lawns, watch this entire scene. They see the federal cars. They see the child clinging to the biker president. They see their local Sheriff Thompson arguing with an FBI agent, being told to secure the scene and stay out of the way. They are forced to confront their own complicit silence. They chose not to see. These outlaws chose to act. The bikers do not just leave. They stay. While Rick is driven away, destined for a federal facility far from the reach of his local friends, the Iron Shields change. Their mission of justice is over. Their mission of restoration begins. Reaper nods to his road captain, who points to the shattered front door. 2 prospects, the club's initiates, are immediately dispatched to a hardware store. They return and fix the door, replacing the frame and the locks. Another group, led by the club's sergeant-at-arms, makes a different kind of run. They go to the local grocery store. They return not with beer, but with trucks loaded with food. They fill Sarah's empty pantry and refrigerator. They are not just removing the threat. They are healing the damage. They are rebuilding the nest that the serpent infested. They are providing the stability Sarah and Maya have never known. Before they leave, Reaper gives Sarah, who is now wrapped in a blanket provided guided by a paramedic, a simple business card with a phone number. "Anything you or Maya need," he tells her, his voice firm. "Anything. You call this number. We are 2 hours away." It is both a promise of absolute protection and a quiet, unspoken warning. A warning that they are always watching. They have become the neighborhood watch this town never had. And then, as quickly and quietly as they can, they prepare to leave. 200 engines start at once, a symphony of internal combustion. The sound is no longer a threat. It is a promise. It is the sound of absolute, unwavering loyalty. They file out of the small neighborhood, a chrome procession vanishing back toward the highway, leaving behind a silent street and a changed world. Maya stands on her new, secure porch. One of the bikers, just before leaving, had handed her a tiny, child-sized leather vest with her own Iron Shield's patch already sewn on. She clutches it to her chest. She watches them go. The town will never see her the same way again. She is no longer the invisible, quiet girl in the diner. She is the girl protected by the Iron Shields. She has a family. The moral of this story is not complicated. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is a 9-year-old girl backed into a corner by a monster who sees one impossible chance, a man in a leather jacket, and decides to take it. Courage is the desperate, terrified whisper that brings an army. True heroes don't always wear capes or shiny badges. Sometimes they wear leather. Sometimes they are scarred, tattooed, and judged by the very world they protect. They are the ones who show up when the safe options fail and the system proves it is broken. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that family is not always blood. Sometimes it is the army that answers the call.